The roadmap is important. You should see within the roadmap where the question is coming from. Is it coming from the funding before college, or is it coming from the period during college? So, before college, is there a difference between 529 plans? Yes. Can they get a little picky about the differences between the 529 plans? Yes. They broke out educational funding into its own testing areas, so I expect more questions on educational funding. So in the past, I've not really emphasized the differences between the two 529 plans, but there is a list in the pre-study, and you should go over the list to see where the differences are. And I'm not going to do that because the list stands alone. So they might test that. They've always asked detailed questions about Coverdales and what they can be used for. Elementary, college, graduate school. They've asked about the $2,000, that's per year per student. They've asked what the money can be used for. It can be used for transportation, expenses, religious schools, etc. You need to read that. There could be a UTMA question on there, and that could be an investment type UTMA question with the parents bracket, etc. So you should be prepared for that. Now, you should be prepared to do the 3-step educational funding question. As you saw in the live review, we handed out an extra 6 pages or so of calculator questions, including the 3-step educational funding question. And it's there, and you might reference it. The possibility of the 3-step educational funding question being on the exam is, I would say, close to 100%. Now, if you have problems with that 3-step educational funding question, you should never do it until you're all done with the exam. Do not attempt the question until you're all done with the exam. Mark it C for correct and mark it to come back. Because the problem is with the 3 steps, you could make a mistake in any of the 3 steps and you don't get any answer. And that's the worst thing that happens to you. No answer is the worst, because then you have to start all over again, and all of a sudden you look up and you've wasted 10 minutes. You still don't have an answer. Well, at the end of the exam, that's okay. But it's not good if it's a 3rd question on the afternoon exam. So let's go and look at practice question 1, which is right after the flow chart. In this particular question, it says, John wants to fund college for his son age 3. So how many years till college? 15. He feels that college will cost $20,000 in today's dollars. What's that? That's a present value. He feels the inflation is 3%. He can make 7% after tax. Now, in this particular question, it doesn't ask you to do the calculation. It tells you he can contribute $5,000 at the beginning of the year. Now let's stop and redo the question. Based on the data, how much does he actually have to contribute? Wait a minute now, Ken, the calculation isn't there. Oh, all the data's there. It's the same as the sheet that you're looking at out of the calculator section. It's the same data. So how do you remember the 3 steps? I-A-R. I-A-R. Okay, what in the world is I-A-R? I is inflation. A is adjusted return. And R is return. Huh? So in step 1, you lose the I. In step 2, you use the A, the adjusted rate. And in step 3, you use the return. Oh. So let's look at this. What's step 1? How much it's going to cost to go to college in 15 years? So, what's the present value? $20,000. Right? What's the I? 3%. How many years? 15. What are we solving for? Future value. Right? So, 20,000, present value, 3%, I, 15 years, what's the future value? You can write this down. It's $31,159.35. Oh, so that's step 1. That's what's going to cost first year of school. Now, what's going to happen over the 4 years? Well, first of all, he's going to make a 7% return, but the school cost is going to increase by 3% over the 4 years, right? So 2 things are happening at the same time, and that's the A. That's the adjusted rate. You've done that. It's 107 over 103 minus 1 times 100. And you should get, on 4 decimal points, you should get 3.8835. That becomes the A, the adjusted rate in the 4 years. Now, the 31,159.35 becomes the payment because the school wants the money when? At the beginning of the year. It's a begin question. There's no school that I know of that says, oh, well, at the end of the semester, pay us. I don't know anybody that does that. So the 31,159, which was a present value, becomes a payment. And the I is now A, and it's 3.8835. And the number of years in school, hopefully, is only 4. Little humor there. And what do we solve for? How much do we have to have at the beginning of school to fund for the 4 years? So that's a present value. Right? Okay. So now, you should have solved and got $117,820.94. That's what we need to have in the account at the beginning of 4 years of school. So that becomes a future value. Now, we know it's 15 years, and we know the return is 7%. That's the R. I-A-R. We use the R in the 3rd step. That's the 7%. Now, there's 3 possibilities for this question. It could ask you, as it does, beginning of the year, because it's talking about him funding at the beginning of the year. It could be the end of the year, or it could be a lump sum payment. There's 3 possibilities, but the exam has to tell you. In this case, I'm going to do a payment at the beginning of the year, and when I solve, I get $4,381.91. Will the board be to the penny? No. They probably would use $4,381 plus or minus $1 or $2 to compensate for the possibility of decimal points here. So I think you should prepare for this question. I really do. And the other possibilities of that I mentioned, again, the difference in the 529, stuff about by Coverdale's, UTMA's, and then you should be prepared for the years of school with the Hope and the, again, Lifetime. I'm sorry, not the Hope, but the American Opportunity Credit and the Lifetime and usage of the Coverdale, etc. You should be ready for that lesson, so you better study that lesson because this is another area that's going to be tested in its own area. So it's going to be its own category. So I hope that helped you. Bye now.